and they arrested him for that. That was over off of South Cherry Grove by the Chesapeake Market. This woman, Miss Sturman, she was arrested for a stabbing that occurred in February on Woodlawn Avenue. It was domestic related, but I just thought I would bring it up. We did have stabbing. You guys probably heard in the news, March 2nd, we had an armed robbery of a pregnant lady on Copeland Street. A woman was in labor with her boyfriend when she came outside to go to the hospital at about 4 o'clock in the morning. 3 men were out there waiting for them. The boyfriend ran off and called the police. Well, they had the woman in labor. They were trying to get into the apartment. She didn't have the keys apparently, so two of them jumped into the victim's car and drove off as police arrived. Police ended up chasing them down Tyler Avenue all the way to the very end where it ends in, I don't know if you're familiar, but after you cross Tyler across Bay Ridge Avenue, it ends basically, there's a court back there, and it's a small residential neighborhood at that point. They were not from the area, so they didn't know where they were going, which is why they ended up there. And when they bailed out, the officers caught them right away. Deborah Kelly and Cornell Robinson were both arrested. They threw 2 guns from the car as they were fleeing. One was recovered right away, and then a shotgun was recovered later that morning when a citizen found it behind his bush in his yard. A third suspect is still at large. We don't know who they are. We haven't identified them. But he managed to flee in a separate car as officers were arriving, and with the confusion of the other car leaving and all that kind of thing. So these 2 were arrested in beginning of March. They were in the Newtown area. The officers, when they pulled them over, smelled a strong odor of marijuana coming from the car. Again, with this new law, are we going to be able to search cars when we smell marijuana? No. You know, it's a question that still needs to be answered. They had multiple bags of marijuana packaged separately in the vehicle, and officers also found a gun in the passenger side door pocket by Miss Palmer there. So they were arrested and charged with the possession of the drugs with intent to distribute, and also the gun in the car. In January, we had a shooting on Silipana Road. In the last meeting, I detailed that we arrested the victim because he had a quantity of drugs on him. We got 2 of the people involved this month, or last month in March. Maurice Hall was arrested, and also Savas Pantelides was also arrested. They were both arrested March 13th. It appears that they both conspired to set up the victim and have him meet with 2 attackers that ended up shooting him on the bridge down off Silipana Road. So, we also had an arrest in our homicide last year, the April 21st, 2013 homicide of John Ray. He was shot in a car that was parked in the 200 block of Victor Parkway. It's a parking lot there outside the condos. Off of Georgetown Road, and it was our only open homicide where someone had not been charged from last year, and Taze Brown and his cousin Todd Brown were arrested for being involved in that, and that was through the work of our detectives piecing together through cell phone records of the victim, the suspects, different surveillance footage that they were able to track their movements and basically track them all around where the homicide occurred. And had enough to bring the charges against them for this. There's Taze, and there's Todd. On the end of March, we had an armed robbery at the 7-Eleven on Bay Ridge Road at Edgewood Road. It has still not been solved either. We have these fabulous pictures where you can't see anything. You know, when we put pictures out like this, we just hope that maybe someone recognizes the print on the mask, or there was in another picture you see the back of the jacket and there's like a reflective logo, you know, that someone might recognize that, because obviously you're not going to be like, oh yeah, that's definitely, you know, such and such from that picture. Also the end of March we had an armed robbery on Madison Street. Jalen Hayes and Alike Richard broke into an apartment, forced their way in, and officers were able to get out there quickly and find both of them at the time. The Gulf station on West Street right here, Amos Garrett was robbed. This was kind of an unusual one. Mr. Powell went and bought a pack of cigarettes there, then he took a bag of chips without paying. The attendant inside the booth challenged him, you know, you need to pay for that. He got very upset, started banging on the booth, telling the attendant to come out, I guess so they could fight. Then he took the attendant's bicycle and started leaving the property with it. The attendant came out of the booth to get his bicycle. Mr. Powell assaulted him. The attendant got his bicycle away, and as officers were arriving, Mr. Powell was running after him and hitting him again. But he was still there when we got there, and we arrested him for that. On the 6th of this month, we had an armed robbery in Melrob Court. This one was an adult male victim. A friend of his called and asked him to give him a ride from Pasadena. He said he would in exchange for gas money, and they went down to, he took him down to Melrob Court and was waiting outside for his friend to come back with the money that he owed him. And as he was waiting, two men came up to his car with guns and demanded money. So his friend never came out when we got there. So. So and I just wanted to touch on, that was the major crime kind of from the last time, but I also wanted to touch on, of course, burglaries, where we're seeing more of them. Obviously, you can see we've had kind of a pickup in 11 Post, the downtown post. 2 we've had on Prince George Street, 1 on Acton Place, 1 on Bloomsbury Square, 1 on Market Space, which was the falafel shop, which we charged people in, 1 on College Avenue, and then our other hotspot really is 16 Post. There's been a few as well, 2 on Ben's Drive. One of those might have been a kind of strange one where female was out of town for a number of days. She came back and there was a man in her apartment who said he had sublet it. Now, he also had drugs and a gun in the apartment, so he was charged with that, but it's also a burglary. It counts as that as well.
So on Craigslist.
Yeah. So, and then Sandstones Court, Barbud Lane, and Garden Gate Lane are the other places we've seen. And in fact, the Garden Gate one, I think it's the Garden Gate one we also made an arrest on. A neighbor saw a man entering the back of the house. We got there, were able to catch him coming out. So thefts from vehicles have not been too hot lately. Obviously you can see most of our activity is 11 and 12 Post. That we have seen an increase down there, and it's been unlocked vehicles that have been targeted. People trying door handles. We actually had some video of one gentleman who we've identified now, who was just going around a parking lot checking door handles, and when he found one that he could open, he got right in the car like he owned it and started looking through for the stuff he was going to take.
Crimes.
Yeah, definitely, and we were seeing it downtown. And it was mainly, say, 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. You know, sort of in that time period. And officers have been very active making stops down there to identify people who are out and about during that time. So that's about it. Just wanted to give you some updates on what's been going on. Yes, Frank?
These people that were being picked up for these crimes of opportunity, were they adults or young adults? We
have had mostly we see older offenders doing those theft from vehicles downtown in that area. Sometimes it can be juveniles, but mostly what we see are the older offenders that have done this over and over again.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, and with those kind of crimes, you know, we might catch them on one, and they might be, you know, good for maybe 10 of them that we can't get them. We don't have any evidence to show that they've done the other ones. So we're charging them with, you know, theft of a Garmin GPS unit that costs, you know, $150. So when they go to the commissioner's not saying, oh, well, I'm going to send them to jail to wait for trial. They get released, and then they go out and do it again until they get enough charges that they're finally kept for a little while. So that's what we see a lot.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Our explorers, and I totally should have put this in here, and I did not. I just thought about it as I saw them walking in. I was hoping Officer Teal was going to be here. Our explorers post has really come a long way. Just for those of you, I think some of you are familiar with it. It is under the umbrella of Boy Scouts of America, and they are youth that are interested between the ages of 14 and 20, and that are interested in becoming police officers. And every 2 years they go to a nationwide competition where they compete in scenarios that we as officers go to. Domestic violence, a bomb threat, crisis, a hostage situation, and we train them in that. They're trained by certified police officers, traffic stops, everything. And this July they're going to Bloomington, Indiana. They are going to have a 3-on-3 basketball tournament May 17th and 18th at the Pitt Moyer Recreation Center. It's a Naptown Throwdown, and I think it's naptownthrowdown.com.
And ntthrowdown.com.
So if anybody has a team, please come support them. It is for a very good cause. We have just some of ours that have started. One is currently a cadet with the Maryland Transportation Authority. One is working at the Mall and Security, hoping to go into the Army sometime in the summer or fall. So it's not a super old program, but we've seen some success. So, you know, if you're interested, either come out, watch, and support, or if you have anybody that's has a basketball team, it ranges from 13 to adult. So, and teams can be co-ed and stuff. So our next meeting will be June 10th, which is the second Tuesday of June, from 6:30 to 8. I don't have a topic yet. I will figure something out. And then, as Ms. Norris said, National Night Out is August 5th. And we have the different, if you are interested in having an event at your community and you would like police to come out with some police vehicles and just stop by and you just kind of do a neighborhood picnic, touch base with me, shoot me an email, call, and we'll work something out with you. Thank you very much, and if anybody has any other questions, feel free to talk to me after.